talking to a legend and a woman who has done more than her part in sport. I'm talking to none other than Tilaka Jinadasa, the nominee for Sri Lanka's IOC Women and Sports Award for the year of 2021. Tilaka, just tell me, how did you get into sports? I mean, what prompted you to become an athlete?
Actually, the story starts from my school. My inspirational is my elder sister because she used to be a very famous athlete among the school students. So I was just, impressed what she have done running and jumping and all. So I thought of starting sports, and because I see that the respect that she earned with the sport. So I thought, this is one thing that you can notice, you can recognize among the others. So that's how my thoughts start to get into sports. So during my school time, so I went to Sri Jayawardhanapura Balika Mahavidyalaya from my year 1 to year 13 till my A levels. And so the story starts there. So I did athletics, I did netball, I play LA, and so you can call anything. I just took part all the sports activities during my school hours.
So, I mean, how did you become Tilaka Jinadasa, the international figure in athletics, and how did you become that Olympic legend?
During school, I took part 13, under 13, under 15, under 17, under 18, managed to be like kind of champion for all school, and then went to circuit events, won that. And my last event was 1981 National Athletics, school national, so where I ran for 400 meters, so I got the best athletics award at that time. But I never stopped even though I left the school. So I used to go to sports ministry grounds, did my training, and then accidentally I met Mr. Yogananda Vijayasundara. He was kind of like, it was lucky for me to meet him accidentally from someone else, and then I was under him till I'm finishing my career. I met him in 1982, soon after I left this school. So from 1982 till 1991, I was running for Sri Lanka. My first international, I remember still 1982 Asian Games, where I chosen for 100 meter relay, 4 into 400 meter relay, but unfortunately, so with the financial issues, they didn't took the 400 meter relay for the Asian Games in New Delhi. So I missed my first international. So, but I never, disappointed or discouraged, but my coach always pushed me, there's more to come. You are still, at that time I was just 21 years. So then he just encouraging me. So then the next event was 1984 South Asian Games. That was the first South Asian Games. No one did know what is South Asian Games. So we went to, I still remember the Nepal Kathmandu South Asian Games, where when I'm starting 200 meter, I cannot see the finish. It was a clay track. There was it's a muddy track. So people were just taking off water with, these rugs and all. And then when we were starting, cannot see the finish line. So it was a very good experience, but it was really hard. They are very cold weather and all. So that was my first international experience, 1984. And I remember I was running for 2 relays, 1, 2 silver, and then the second SAF games and third SAF games, fourth SAF games, fifth SAF games. I took part all first 5 SAF games. And my best one is 1987, where I managed to win gold medal, silver medal and bronze medal. So that was the turning point for my career, in my life. When I won gold medal, that was the only athletic gold medal in 1987. When I'm coming back, so it was kind of a dream for me. And then I still remember athletic secretary came to my place, told me that you have been chosen to represent Sri Lanka at the Olympics game in 1988. I was like, wow. But I won the South Asian Games with the new South Asian Games record 14:48. And the same year the government honored me with the Deshabandhu. That was
Yeah.
the first time that any female athlete got Deshabandhu. And along with me, the Julian Bolin also got. That's the first year the sports been recognized to award the national recognition. And after that, I did athletics. My last international event, I remember 1991 South Asian Championship. But in between, I went to Asian Championship, Indian Permit, International Athletic Meet, all these athletic meet. But mind you but I always play netball behind my coach back.
So I was just about to ask you. Now, what prompted you to shift from athletics to serious netball? I mean, you were always a netball player, even at school, but taking up to serious, I mean, when having a athletic career and being to the Olympic once, I mean,
It's a funny thing because even I've been recognized as national athlete, went to Olympic, but I never got my employment because of athletic. It's always because of netball. Soon after I given up my studies and I've been called for Zilon Oxygen because of netball. They wanted to organize a netball team, and then after that I joined Selinco Group because of netball. And the turning point is netball. 1985, I've been selected to represent Sri Lanka in athletics and Sri Lanka in netball, first Asian Championship for netball. Then my coach got upset. He said, okay, this is not going to happen because internationally you cannot dominate two sports. You need to choose either. So then I have to have a lot of discussion with my seniors, my family, my coach, length discussion, and then end of the day I choose athletics. But my passion always to play netball. Always I've been punished for a lot of time from my coach because of playing netball. You know, when you're playing netball, sometimes you get ankle sprain, you get some injuries because it's a different pattern of training.
Yeah.
So, but somehow soon after I given up, I wanted to, because when I'm giving up 1991 athletics, my athletic career, that was my fastest 100-meter hurdle,
Yeah.
14:18 in
Yeah.
Asian Championship in Kuala Lumpur. So when I am finishing with my fastest time, I said, okay, enough athletics, so I want to try netball. But that time I was around 30 plus. So, but still I just faced for netball trials. But fortunately, I've been selected to represent Sri Lanka in 1993 Asian Championship in Hong Kong. So I played for Sri Lanka netball for 5 years. And 1993 even I select to represent Sri Lanka in netball. I was not in the World Cup team in 1995. It was a bit of a disappointment because I knew that I was in front line, but somehow I didn't, because it's not like athletics. The netball selection is sometimes I feel like it's kind of funny. And then I choose, okay, so it's high time me to give up if I'm at that age. So then I managed to go to somehow with my brother-in-law's assistant. I went to Australia because when I told my coach, sir, it's high time, I wanted to start coaching. He said, never follow your experience. You need to educate as a coach. You need to follow all. So you need to know the coaching theories and principles, what you're supposed to apply when you are coaching. And with that guidance, I went to Australia, follow all level 1, level 2 coaching principles, strength and conditioning. I stayed there for 1 year and I obtained all the certificates which needed to start coaching career. But at the same time, I played for the club during my stay in Australia. So I still fit at that time. So when I come back, I thought, why not try again one more time? So I faced the national trials. So I've been selected to represent Sri Lanka again in 1997, the Singapore Asian Championship, where I don't know how it came around me. I've been chosen as a vice captain. And then we managed to win the Asian Championship at that time, just 2 points. So being Asian champions, netball, and winning athletics in international level, it was, it's kind of
like a dream.
Yeah, it's a fortune, I think. It's a luck. I don't think a lot of people might not have that kind of a luck.
Yeah, yeah. But now, how did you become after your career in athletics and netball? How did you become an administrator? Uh,
And during my Selinco times, I was there for around 20 plus years under Selinco Group. I was the sports secretary for, and I was one of the sports complex directors. So I learned a lot of things during my time in Selinco Group. So I learned how to handle teams and organize tournaments, and that's my administration part. But apart from that, then I start slowly coaching with my group team and then move into some schools training, and then I applied for national youth coach. Accidentally, I don't know how it came around. So that time the Maldivians wants a coach from Sri Lanka. So when I faced the interview, they asked me whether I'm okay to go to Maldives. So 1998 I start my international coaching career. That was my first appointment as a national level coach. So I started with Maldivians team. So
women's team.
Maldivians national team. So I was there for 1 year and then I came back. They finished 4th in Asia. That's the best record they still have in netball, Maldives. And then I was applying, but I never got it. But somehow accidentally 2006 I got national youth coach, and 2008 again national youth coach. Both occasion I managed to guide the team as a Asian runner-up. But accidentally again I got in 2009 as a national coach netball, because the coach at that time just left the country and they were not having any coaches. There was no time. It's just 7 months to go for nationals, and I still remember I started coaching somewhere around end of December, and 2008, and 2009 July 1st we had the finals. So lucky I had a good team. We really worked hard for 7 months and managed to win the Asian Championship. After 9 years gap, that was 2001 we won last time, because at the moment we won 5 times Asian Championship as Sri Lanka. So that's how I become a national coach in 2009, and winning Asian Championship in 2009, we qualified to go to World Cup. When I applied for that, I didn't get that opportunity. Somehow whoever who left the country got again, usual pattern. So that time I had opportunity I applied for a lot of international coaching opportunities. So I got to go to Brunei. So I start Brunei from the scratch. They never had any national team. So I went there in 2011. I was there till 2017. And so I started with 2 players, because as you all know, that's the Muslim country, 100% Muslim. And they play netball for pleasure and leisure. They never dreamed to go to international. So I had this passion, because I've been treated badly after winning 2009, and 2012 Sri Lanka is supposed to host the Asian Championship. So I told the president at that time, Datin Intan in Brunei, Datin, I really want to go to Sri Lanka for the Asian Championship. Then he asked me, okay, he took me to the sports ministry. I had to convince them. They were afraid that they will be in the last in the row in the Asian ranking, because having all the money to become a last, they were not happy. I said, I guarantee them. I had actually had a press conference informing them we are not going to be in last, we'll be coming at least in the middle as first time participator. So we end up in 6th in Asia out of 12 countries. So they were really happy at that time. So government starts supporting, and they nominate netball as a core sport for Brunei. Just imagine, they still play like long, 3 quarters and the close, and some athletes still play with the tudong because they are Muslim. But the Asian Federation allow that because we have a lot of Muslim countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka also some Muslim players, and Maldives. So they've been allowed to play with the long pants and all, but internationally it's not allowed anyway. The World Championship, you cannot play like that.
So now, how do you ask from that question? I will now the opportunity that you have got of being in the Olympic Women's and Sports Award. I mean, what do you think that how can you mingle that with the gender balance and the rights?
Yeah, I don't call it right because we need to prove our thing. We cannot fight for the right. We need to prove. That's what I did simply because even the coaching unit in Brunei, I had how many? All male coaches. It's only me, women coach. And they were like, because netball never happened in Brunei because it's a male, 100% male dominant country. And then I have to tell that, see, if we train, and I especially because then no one have been gone to gym at that time, gym in the sense to do strength training. They never believing in that. So I took them twice a week to the gym. And then when anyway in Brunei, when the girls come to the gyms, boys are not allowed to that area. So still the cultural barriers were there. So but still I convinced players. There were some married. Even in my team, about 3 or 4 girls were married, some 2 with the children as well. But they still believing it. It's about how you conduct yourself to the people and convince what sort of experience. I share my experience. Same thing happened in even Maldives when I was starting. I mean, I was very young at that time. I didn't have any zero experience when I go to Maldives, but when I'm going to Brunei, I was sort of matured. Yeah, I already know what to do. But so it's about how you conduct yourself, how you trying to, what sort of example that you can bring it to. Even for when I'm meeting the minister also, I have to explain him. So how it's going to be. So because they have seen netball, they have seen how especially that they were very concerned. I remember when I go to South Asian Games, that first time netball taking part in 2015, they asked me to wear tudong because I'm representing Brunei. I said no way, because I'm from Sri Lanka. Even though I'm your national coach, I don't mind not going on the parade. I just stay back. But this is my identity. If I put the tudong on, I don't want to go to that. So I conduct myself. I told them the cultural values is still really important. So I respect their culture. So I said, okay, we got the permission, the BNA got the permission from the ANF to wear the long pants. So we organized everything. So the ministry was happy because we just have to meet what their requirement. So that's how it's not, I didn't fight for the right. I just convinced them, if you do this, you can do something. So end of the day, so we are Southeast Asian bronze medalists. So that was their historic event. And they were really impressed. We had special felicitation at the palace and everything was there. So that's the first time female sports, team sport, succeed.
Yeah. So how, given this chance, say that you are chosen as the Olympic woman of the year. How are you going to help uplift the women's? Okay.
So it's really simple because I just have to share my experience, how I step up, how I end up here, what is my path, so how I handle. So it's really privilege. I know that the younger ones, now I'm attached to Gateway College. So their primary objective is the studies. I want them to, I'm always trying to convince them studies plus sports can go a long way. And it's really help you. If you are a really good sportsman, your decision making ability is really high. If you're just students, you just have to go through the book. But when you do sports, your real life experience is somewhat different. So that's the message I wanted to give. I mean,
All
being
women.
here, yes.
Okay, thank you, Tilaka. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Okay.